1923. Bhaktya Veshamano Yasmin Vachayan Kirtayan Yajan Kalevaram Yogi Muchyate Kama Karmabhi. The personality of Godhead who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting the holy name releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. So this is Bhishma Dev is talking about the process by which one gets completely liberated from bondage of fruitive activities, means karma phala, kama karma, fruitive activities, and also from the results of fruitive activities. Um, Personality of Godhead appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion, and by chanting the holy name. He releases the devotee from bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. So this is when somebody thinks about the Lord at the time of death. What happens is he becomes free from all fruitive activities. In fact, there might be some karma phala which might be remaining at that time, and that also is cleansed. And many times devotees ask, okay, what if I am not able to remember the Lord? If we have remembered the Lord throughout our life, then Lord will remember us at the time of us quitting the body. So whatever remaining purification is left at that point of time, that happens by the mercy of Krishna. So the whole point is that whole life we should practice this, to chant the names of Krishna, think about Krishna. Then at the time of quitting material body, Krishna will release the devotee from all bondage of fruitive activity, meaning that person will not have to come back to this material world again. Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshataam Kalevaram Yavadidam Hinomyaham Prasannaha Sarunalochanallasam Lochanolasan Mukhambujo Dhyanapatas Chaturbhujaha. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face, with eyes as red as the rising sun, is smiling. May my Lord, who is four-handed and who is smiling, kindly await me at the moment when I quit this material body. So here, Bhishma Dev is looking at the Lord who is four-handed. And though Krishna is standing in front of him, he is seeing four-handed form because he is actually a devotee of Parthasarathi, four-handed Vishnu form. So he is seeing, because Krishna, all the Vishnu forms are also in Krishna. So Bhishmadev is seeing the four-handed form. Though he's seeing the four-handed form, actually this beauty is same. I mean, in face of Vishnu, Krishna, there is no difference. A beautifully decorated face, and of course Krishna does some additional stuff when he goes to the forest of Vrindavan. He does all that minerals. He puts dots and all that. So his friends decorate him with producers from the Vrindavan, which Narayana will not have. But the beautiful lotus face, the description of eyes, smile, that is there both in Vishnu and Krishna. And here, because Bhishma Dev is his Ishta Devata is this 400 Parthasarthi form. He is praying, kindly await, may that Lord kindly await me at the moment when I quit this material body. So he's requesting. So fortunate, see, Bhishma Dev is giving up his body in the presence, a literal external presence of Krishna. We can also give up our body in the presence of Krishna by remembering the holy name. And that is the reason why we should be in the association of devotees. My father was so fortunate that he left his body in the middle of Harinam. So we should also pray that somehow we can remember Krishna's holy name. If we are in the association of devotees, devotees will chant the holy name, sing the holy name. And because of a repeated attachment, addiction to the holy name, even in that distressful situation of giving up this body, our mind will get attracted towards the holy name. And that is the reason we should engage in kirtan more and more. Because initially we won't have taste in japas, but kirtan will give us that attachment. So whichever program I do, I request devotees, please come for kirtan. Please come for participate in the kirtan. That kirtan has to go into our heart, and kirtan can be sung from the lips, and somebody can be singing from their heart. Just singing lips means nice tune. Um, but it will not impact you, it will not reach your heart. You should always hear kirtan of pure devotees, because they will sing from within their heart. From their heart the nama comes, and then that nama will enter our hearts, and it will purify us. And so we should also make sure that we don't simply hear any kirtan. So many people who are not belonging to the parampara, they also sing nicely. Singing nicely is not important. First of all, they should be in the parampara. They should be singing authentic mantras or authentic songs. That is important. Anyway, the point is that we should develop this attachment. We may not be as fortunate as Bhishma Dev. I'm saying may because some devotees will reach that stage where they'll be seeing Krishna face to face. We may or may not. But still we can, by Krishna's special mercy, we can still reach him by help of devotees who can help us remember Krishna at the time of us quitting our body. And we should be ready to quit our material body because we don't know when it can happen anytime. Okay. That's what say. Only desire that a pure devotee entertains is that he may always be in the rapt attention with thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord, regardless. Regardless meaning regardless of what the situation, what the material situation is. Bhishma Dev wanted this much only, that his mind be absorbed in thinking of the Lord and that he pass away thus. And that is the highest ambition of a pure devotee. Prabhupada is saying in the purport. Bhishma Dev knew well that Lord Krishna is the original Narayana. His worshipful deity was the four-handed Narayana, but he knew that four-handed Narayana is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. Indirectly, he desired Lord Sri Krishna to manifest himself in his four-handed Narayana feature. Vaishnava is always humble in his behavior. Although it was 100% certain that Bhishma Dev was approaching Vaikuntha Dham just after leaving his material body, still as a humble Vaishnava, he desired to see the beautiful face of the Lord, for after quitting the present body, he might not be in a position to see the Lord anymore. See, Prabhupada is revealing that actually it is humility of Bhishma Dev. Vaishnava is not puffed up, although the Lord guarantees his pure devotee entrance into his abode. This is the reason we have to read Prabhupada's purports, because otherwise we cannot never naturally come to these aspects. We cannot understand these aspects. A pure devotee is never very anxious to go back to the kingdom of God. He entirely depends on the goodwill of the Lord. Goodwill of the Lord, wherever he wants. He is equally satisfied, even the Lord desires him to go to hell. The only desire that a pure devotee entertains is that he may always be in rapt attention with thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. Regardless, Bhishma, they wanted this much only. That his mind be absorbed in thinking of the Lord and that he pass away thus. That is the highest ambition of a pure devotee. Okay. Sutavacha. Yudhishthirastadakarnya shayanam sharapanjare apruchad vividhan dharman rishinam chanushunvatam. Suta Goswami said, Maharaja Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhishma Dev speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties. So there's a very important part where Bhishma Dev is going to explain various religious duties. Basically, he's going to explain Varnasrama system to Yudhishthir Maharaj. So Prabhupada has written extensive purports here, so we will be going into some detail because generally people tend to ignore these parts because they think it's not relevant for us. It's absolutely relevant. Lord Shri Krishna inspired Maharaj Yudhishthira to ask Bhishma Dev in the presence of many great sages, indicating thereby that the Lord's devotee like Bhishma Dev, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages, even Vyasadeva. Actually, this is sometimes it's very difficult for us to understand. Whenever we hear of names of rishis, we think that they are great. Um, but actually not rishi, all rishis are great. Prabhupada says rishis are like scientists and philosophers, right? How much respect do we have for modern day scientists and philosophers? Now there are certain rishis who are also atheists. Charvaka is called Charvaka Muni. So, but he was he is the epitome of modern day sense gratification. Yavat jivet sukham jivet. So he says, however you live, just live, try to live happily. And what is the indication of happiness? How much ghee you have. At least it was sattvic, but still sense gratification. He was a muni. So not all these great sages are qualified to speak about the Lord, or they don't even understand about the Lord. So a devotee he might just be like Prabhupada is saying, you're apparently living as a worldly man, but he's superior. The devotee is far superior to many great sages or even many yogis who might be doing some amazing tapasya. Simple looking, humble devotees are far superior to any of these people. Very important. That is the reason why we have to respect all devotees. But we should still discriminate. I mean, this is the difficulty of Vaishnavism, right? We have to respect everybody, but we should still discriminate. We should discriminate just so that we don't associate, so that we associate with the right people, with the right devotees. Because even though they are um, practicing sadhakas, not everybody has reached pure stage. So some people are doing bhakti in the mode of ignorance, some in the mode of passion, some in the mode of goodness. So the discrimination is required, but we respect everybody because they are all far superior to many great sages. We should always remember this. Another point is that Bhishma Dev at that time was not only lying on the deathbed of arrows, but was greatly aggrieved because of that state. One should not have asked him any question at that time. But Lord Shri Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment, and thus in any circumstance, a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. And Srila Prabhupada demonstrated this, right, at the last part of his manifest pastimes on this world. He showed that a devotee is always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. So, and we should practice this today. For example, we are unwell or something, we should still continue our services. We should not try to say, okay, let me take rest for 2 days. Then we just lost the opportunity to practice, to put some of these instructions into practice. Because at the end of our life, when we are actually supposed to remember Krishna, our body and mind will not be in sound condition. And we can't directly go to the final exam, right? We have to write some tests also in the middle that can prepare us. So, irrespective of what our body condition is, to whatever extent possible, we should push ourselves to whatever extent possible. Like, yeah, when we are unwell, maybe we cannot do one kind of service, but we can do some other type of service. Whatever is possible, push, little bit push. We should come out of our comfort zone. So, so this is very important, right? And Krishna wanted to prove this and show to the world, see, this is the caliber of my pure devotees. He's lying on a deathbed of arrows, so much of pain, but still he's always sound in body and mind. And he is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. And Bhishma Dev is going to speak about the right way of life to Yudhishthira. How should one live in this material world? पुरुषस्वभाव विहितान् यथा वर्णं यथाश्रमं वैराग्य रागोपाधिभ्यं पादिभ्याम् आम्नातो At Maharaja Yudhishthira's inquiry, Bhishma they first defined all the classifications of castes and orders. So this is Varnasrama, Varnam, Yatha Varnam, Yatha Ashramam. In terms of the individual's qualifications means Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Stri, Dharma. Then he systematically in twofold divisions described counteraction by detachment, interaction by attachment. So pravritti, nivritti. So it describes these also. So it's basically describing the whole Varnashrama system. So Prabhupada writes an elaborate purport here. Okay, so I'm going to go into some detail here. The conception of the four castes and four orders of life as planned by the Lord himself, Chaturvarnya Maya system, is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act accordingly to get free from material bondage or conditional life. The Prabhupada is writing very clearly what is the intention of Varnashrama. It is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person. Now, see, we should just think about this for a moment. Why is this important? Today we are trying to preach to so many people. So many people come in touch with devotees, but they still have attachment for karma. And they are not in the stage of their life where they'll get attracted by bhakti. And for us, it might seem very strange saying that how is it that they're not attracted by bhakti? Because they have not accumulated that piety. And they, of course, bhakti is independent. Pure devotees can transform even those who don't have qualification. But not pure devotees. There are never going to be so many pure devotees on the streets, right? Trying to convert each and every person. So this whole Varnashrama is a beautiful concept, which is based on karma, which is what people want to do. People want to work. People want to earn money. So what Varnashrama does is gives them a kind of sane framework by which they can actually work and they can enjoy sense gratification in a restricted way, and which will eventually, and a restricted way meaning wherein they also have to give up little bit of independence of their own, because they have to follow some rules and regulations. So they will surrender to superior authority, and these things will gradually bring them to the transcendental platform. So that's why Prabhupada is saying it is to accelerate transcendental qualities, so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity. So eventually they'll come to know, I am not the body, I'm spirit soul. But initially they're not interested in knowing that. I want work, I want to earn, I want to enjoy dharma, artha, kama. Finally we'll think about moksha. For this dharma, artha, kama is varnashrama. So they don't want to immediately get free from their material bondage. So they will require a more suitable in environment framework which can help them come. And some of them who are anyway in the mode of goodness, or who have had bhakti unmukha sukruti, punya, which associated with devotees or some indirect form of devotional service, they might get attracted to bhakti. So both are required. That is why Prabhupada said 50% of my work is incomplete. Varnashrama, Prabhupada considered as 50% of his work, because he knows that in Kali Yuga not everybody is going to take up bhakti directly. We can see so much effort goes on, right? But people are still busy in their bread and butter business. And if that bread and butter business itself is going to somehow, elevate them to stage of knowing who am I, and bhakti, that is the best. And that is Varnashrama. So we cannot, it is not required for devotees, of course. I mean, what does that mean? It's not required for devotees who are anyway already practicing doing bhakti for 24 by 7. Now look at even practicing devotees. Look at, maybe most of us here assembled here, right? Everybody is working mostly, right? And when you're working, how much time do you have for bhakti? Uh, Literally, you have to pull time from here, there, everywhere, and somehow manage. Oh, I just finished my rounds. Oh, I just managed to finish reading half an hour. Is this satisfying devotee? Is this satisfying all of you? It is not satisfying. You want to do more, but your material responsibilities will not allow you to do more, right? So that is why my Guru Maharaj is always Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. He says that devotees should go and live on the farm. Simple living, high thinking, because you will get all the time in the world for Krishna conscious activities. You're only in the association of devotees. In fact, he encourages newly married devotees to go and live on the farm. Why? Because then then their children will be born in farm. Those children have no idea about what this fallen material world is, and they will not get contaminated. Perfect system, right? We are so struggling. We are living in this. When I ask Maharaj saying that, oh, my daughter is not very Krishna, I say, what else can you expect? Hey, you are living in city. What else can you expect? Because there's so much of negative influence around. It's very difficult for somebody to practice bhakti unless they're very fixed. Not everybody is as fortunate. Even for devotees, they want to have their living, they want to take care of their family, etc. And of course, see, then what will happen is, even if we don't have so much material desires, being in the city, we will develop material desires. We look here, there, and we'll also feel, oh, like I also want to own a car, I also want to. But if you're on a farm, then there's nothing like that. And why if we talk about farm? Because Varnasrama is not possible in city. Where is the, I mean, first basic requirement of Varnasrama is people have to come together and live like a community with similar interest, similar thought process. So once it starts in pockets like this farms, and then slowly it can become way of life. Previously, it was the way of life. Every village. So ideally, the approach is every village has to be converted into a Varnasrama setup. Then eventually, if it comes to city, it comes. Otherwise, it doesn't come. As in, it depends. Now, at least people who are interested can move to these villages, and villages are like communities where people have all facilities. They live a comfortable life. They live a Krishna conscious life, more importantly, and their children will be Krishna conscious, and all their needs of their body are being met in a healthy way. Right? So eventually people will come. Those who are non-devotees will also look at this and say, that is why one of our desire also is, if there is some farm nearby, we'll preach to corporates and take them on a weekend getaway, like 2 days out of work, come and stay here on our farm and experience bliss, simple bliss, far from all nonsense of the city. Right? And people might get excited about it, but yes, it requires a lot of commitment, it's a lot of investment, so many things required, right? And of course, when something like this we discussed with His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, he said, first you preach, first you prepare people who want to go, then you can set up a farm, right? So he's very clear because he has experience with these kind of projects wherein, devotees are very excited. They get land, this, that, they start farming and all that, but there are no people who want to go and live there. Everybody is just doing lip service, just talking orally. But nobody wants to go and live on the farm. I said, first you have devotees who want to go and live on the farm. Then when they are living on the farm, then you can get other people, right? You cannot do that by having paid people living on the farm, right? Or some local villagers living on the farm. And because when these people come and they look at them and say, hi, okay, they are local villagers, they'll anyways live on the farm. It's their life. But when people actually who are living in the city, have given up their jobs and went and stayed there and living a happy life, and they, you know, then when people come, and because then there will be, then there is that real vijnana, right? Because people are living by experience. So then when those devotees who are living on such farms, they speak to those people who are coming in, to have that experience, that will have an impact, right? But eventually, people have to be educated about this, Varnasrama way of life because it's so peaceful and it's so happy. Unlike living in city and cutthroat competition, like we're just running like crazy. We can't give up. We can't stop pushing the accelerator because then we'll be left out. So basic minimum speed we have to run. Whatever that basic minimum speed itself is like too much to expect. Right? It just kills all the energy we have. How much enthusiasm will we have to after coming back from work to sit and say do japa for 1 hour? Body won't support, mind won't support. It's so unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. Devotees don't seem to understand. They say, kya kar sakte? As in, what can you do? You're anyway living in a city. No, why you can't do? You can do if you want to. That is the problem. That's why Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita, one of the purports, he says, for Grihasthas, it is actually bhakti and living a material life is requires military kind of discipline, he says. Military discipline. Just imagine what military discipline means. That is so difficult, but still you have to do. Somehow you have to do push, 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 do. Okay, so this is one part. Another part, Vishwadev is actually talking about 9 qualifications that every human being should develop. They're very beautiful qualities these are. So kindly pay attention. Not to become angry, because angry means frustration. Frustration means material attachment. So he's indirectly saying don't have material attachment. So don't be angry. Don't lie. Again, this is also self-centeredness, trying to achieve some goal, material goal. Don't lie. To equally distribute wealth, because wealth is not ours to hoard. We have to equally distribute wealth. So there are brahmacharis, there are vanaprasthas, sannyasis, or there are devotees. We have to distribute wealth, not just accumulate wealth for ourselves. To forgive, yesterday I was saying in our Kannada class, tolerance and forgiveness go hand in hand. One should tolerate and one should forgive. When one has the ability to tolerate, that person will also forgive. Tolerance, yeah, it's okay. To beget children only by one's legitimate wife, okay. Thankfully in India still this is prevalent. Very soon this will also come to an end. To be pure in mind and hygienic in body. Pure in mind, what thoughts come to our mind? It's always sense gratification, or taking advantage of somebody's position, or thinking wrong, negative about somebody, trying to criticize somebody when that devotee is not there. Yeah, actually, healthy criticism is accepted when it is done with the right intention and in the presence of the devotee, and generally it should not be done in public, right? So if you want to give some feedback to somebody, talk to that person and let that person understand that you have his or her best intention at heart, right? And only those who have developed such relationship can go and try and correct, guide other devotees. Otherwise it'll just be criticism because we are just envious, or this is just material mind that we want to just criticize somebody, and by doing that we feel happy, or we feel, oh, I am superior. Not required. Hygienic in body, taking bath, and so many things there are about bodily hygiene that we'll come to later. One of the future verses, 16th chapter, we were discussing in our Kannada Bhagavatam class. Bhumi is talking about various qualities of Krishna, and second quality is cleanliness. And we talked about that bodily and mental cleanliness. We'll come to that. Not to be inimical toward anyone. Don't hate anybody. To be simple. Not to be inimical toward anyone. Whatever happens in our life, we should understand. It's just Krishna's desire. And if you're not fully surrendered to Krishna, then it's our karma phala. Why are we going and beating up the postman? So we should not do that. We should not be inimical towards anyone. To be simple. Simple living, simple thinking. Simple thinking means high thinking, but simple in the sense not complicating things. Sometimes, small things we just complicate so much. This we think that this, so much of complication. Make it simple. Simple, eat simple food, wear simple clothes. That is the reason for grihasthas, especially men. We can simply live simple dressing by just wearing white. It's so simple. No choice. No choice to be made. Any day of the week, any time, just go pick up and it'll always be white. It's so simple. You don't have to worry, oh, I have brown, I don't have this color, I don't have. Why? Just make it simple, right? Because then you have colors, then you have so many colors, then you'll think, okay, I have this color, but I don't have that color. No, let me get that. White means it's white, this is also white, that's also white, something else is also white. Simple, right? Um, when I was working, I used to have all these different t-shirts and this and that and all that. Now I'm so happy. I don't have to worry about any of that. I don't have to go look for some this color, that color. It's always white. It's just white. Simple. My wardrobe is so simple. It just makes our unnecessary thoughts we can cut out. Unnecessary thought process. Mataji's, of course. I can't say about for Mataji. So, but it's also good to keep it simple. So much is done. This. I'm not should be talking about this, but this sari, then this matching stuff, then this matching earring, this matching bindi, this, that, and all that. So much complication. Just whom are we dressing for? Pleasure of Krishna. And just doing it dress simply, Krishna will be pleased. Of course, we should not look like urchins, like beggars on the street, right? Like torn clothes or some really unkept kind of stuff. No, we should, because we are representing Krishna, we are representing Parampara. So we should be neatly dressed, but we don't have to be so. We doesn't have to be so extravagant. Uh, you can just keep it simple. Some people have chappals also, matching chappals. Craziness. To support servants or subordinates is very, very important. Nowadays, we have people who are helping us out in our material course and we just don't care about them. We don't support them in any way. Okay, somebody will say, madam, I need some 1,000 rupees. I am in some material difficulty. And we'll just say, no, I can't give you. No, we should support. Of course, we should not make it a habit. We should be discriminating. We should understand what the problem is. We should also help that people so that they don't, but the idea is that we should support them. Somebody who's depending on us, we should support because they're depending on us. And yeah, there are people in this material who want to take advantage of every person, every opportunity. So we have to be careful. We should not become naive. Whatever anybody is, just go all out and help. No, not like that. But we should just not also be, like we should not ignore them. We should hear them out and try to see what best can be done. Prabhupada is saying one cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above mentioned preliminary qualities. I mean, when I see this, I just say we cannot even call many people in this material world civilized because people won't have these 9 qualities. I mean, I can speak about myself. I don't think I have all these 9 qualities. Right. So we are thinking about being devotees, but Prabhupada is saying this is not even civilized life. So we should practice this. Those are so important qualities. It's very easy. You see, some of these we should do. We should put effort. Yeah, chanting Hare Krishna, doing bhakti, all these the qualities will develop in us naturally. But that requires tivra sadhana. And first of all, it requires giving time. But those who are not able to do that, at least they should also parallelly try to practice some of these things. Some are more easy than others, which you can start with that, and then others slowly, steadily, we should incorporate. That is why, for me, when I'm talk about devotees, you know, talking about Diksha and all that, then I want to set proper standards so that people don't go in the wrong direction, right? If people are materially desiring, then they should not take initiation. They should be desiring Krishna, only then they should take initiation, right? And they should understand rules and regulations. They should be willing to follow. right? Because otherwise what will happen is we think that we have just, achieved something, like we become liberated by the initiation. No, but liberation is, initiation is just the beginning. And so then after that, life can go in that particular direction, going closer towards Krishna, developing all these qualities in us. So I encourage every devotee saying that identify your anarthas, major anarthas, and pray for mercy, put little effort, to get over those anarthas. This requires devotees to be introspective. If devotees don't have the ability to be introspective, then they should discuss with those devotees who are guiding them so that they can get help. But this has to be done. We cannot just say, I'm doing best effort bhakti, meaning whatever is possible I'm doing. No, that's not going to help us get reach Krishna. Mm. And so we should even try to develop these qualifications. There's nothing wrong. But we should not be overly like overwhelmed by these only. Oh, I'm trying to control my anger, but I'm not able to control at all and become depressed. No, we should know that there are certain things for which we also require external power, spiritual power, which is our bhakti. So both have to be done hand in hand. And there's no question of frustration for a devotee. It's just continue the attempt till we reach, and Krishna will give us mercy. For the intelligent men, now Prabhupada is talking about brahmanas. Controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Uh, Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled. See, something that devotees also don't follow, unfortunately. Legitimate wife must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow, which means that no need to use artificial ways of family control. Because indulgence, sex indulgence must be controlled. And devotees, for unfortunately, I don't know why, some misconception, they think that this is allowed, that one can continue to engage, in their married life by using contraceptives and all that. No, not allowed. It is illicit. It's not allowed. When we say these things, people get very upset, very heavy. I am not heavy. Prabhupada is heavy. Our acharyas are heavy. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. So one who is a Brahmana, who has to follow these things, otherwise he ceases to be a Brahmana. That is why people today also this fashion of taking Brahmin initiation without being Brahmin qualified. Brahminically qualified, one should not take Brahmin initiation. Because it's not for some, nowadays it's this fashion like, oh, I'm going to do DT service. So whatever nonsense I'm doing, I will take Brahmin initiation. That's not correct. If you want to do DT service, then we have to come to the platform of being a Brahmana. How can a Shudra or anybody with a different kind of, affected by modes of nature, actually, unless one is in the mode of goodness, he cannot approach the deity. This means, so this for the Brahmana, this means he must seriously make study of Vedic literatures, especially Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. For learning Vedic knowledge, one must approach a person who is 10% engaged in devotional service, a guru who is 10% engaged. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. Brahmana. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In modern system of education, the teacher's academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of high intelligence in so many ways. So this is for a Brahmana. Now, when we hear these things, what do we know, or which one is more applicable to us or not? It depends on our nature. For example, if somebody has Brahminical qualification, how do we test? Generally, he or she has inclination to read Shastra, right? Then they have Brahminical qualification. Of course, there are many other indications also, but Patan Patan, Yajanyajan, Dana Pratigraha. So main thing is this reading Vedic literature and being able to understand philosophy. These all indicate that that person has Brahminical brain and self-control. One person has self-control, then that means he has Brahminical qualifications, or at least propensities. Yesterday, one of our devotees' son, parents were saying he's like so young, he maybe 7th standard or something like that. He said his son takes bath twice a day. He cannot not take bath twice a day. I mean, he must be what, like 13, 14, maybe 15 years. He's taking a bath twice a day. And if he doesn't take bath, he'll feel uncomfortable. Brahminical, clearly Brahminical, right? The Kshatriya, member of administrative class, is especially advised to give charity and not to accept charity in any circumstance. Kshatriya should not accept charity. Modern administrators raise subscriptions for some political functions, but never give charity to citizens, which means that they raise money from people, but they will never give charity to citizens in any state function. It is just the reverse in the injunction of the Shastra that Kshatriya should give but never take. So topsy-turvy. The administrative class must be well versed in the Shastras, and they should also be well versed in the Shastras, but must not take the profession of teachers. The administrator should never pretend to become non-violent and thereby go to hell. When Arjuna wanted to become a non-violent coward on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was severely chastised by Lord Krishna. The Lord degraded Arjuna at that time to the status of an uncivilized man, Anarya Justam Asvargyam, for his avowed acceptance of the cult of non-violence. The administrative class must be personally trained in military education. Cowards should not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of numerical votes. The monarchs were all chivalrous personalities, and thereby monarchy should be maintained, provided the monarch is regularly trained in the occupational duties of a king. And who trains the monarch is a Brahmana. In fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by the enemy. The so-called king of today never visits the warfield. He is very much expert in artificially encouraging the fighting strength in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and laborer men, meaning Vaishyas and Shudras, the whole machinery of government becomes polluted. So why these things are important for us? Because we have to see the world around us and understand, in what kind of situation we are operating and how much we should influence or be influenced by these things. Don't get engaged into politics. If your nature is your nature of a Kshatriya, then you start, then there is a particular direction that one can take if he has Kshatriya mentality. Right, if you take responsibility of some major projects within ISKCON and thereby show his Kshatriya administrative abilities, put his administrative abilities in the service of Krishna. Of course, in Kali Yuga, everybody is Kali Yuga Shudra Sambhava, but still we will have some of these qualities. Some will be more prevalent in others than, like yeah. So some will be Brahminical, some not at all Kshatriya, some will be totally Vaishyas. And so we can make out. The Vaishyas, the members of the mercantile communities, are especially advised to protect the cows. Kshatriyas are to protect mainly human beings and all jivas, and Vaishyas specifically cows. Cow protection means increasing the milk productions, namely curd and butter. Agriculture and distribution of the foodstuff are the primary duties of mercantile community, backed by education in Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. See, Vaishyas are also educated in Vedic knowledge and they're also trained to give in charity. All grahasthas should give charity, except possibly Shudras, because Shudras take charity, but they can also give. Backed by education in Vedic knowledge. So Krishi and Goraksha, agriculture and cow protection, right? Agriculture, distribution of foodstuff, and cow protection. As the Kshatriyas were given charge of the protection of citizens, Vaishyas were given charge of the protection of animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of animals is a symptom of barbarian society. For a human society, agricultural produce, fruits, and milk are sufficient and complete foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he's occupied by industrial enterprises, because Vaishyas are the ones who are going to engage people in economic development. So Prabhupada is saying here, if these Vaishyas engage in other industries, then the productive energy of the laborer class is misused because they will not be used. Here Prabhupada says, industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of man, namely rice, wheat, grains, milk, fruits, and vegetables. So what is the use of all these industries? No use. The production of machines and machine tools increases artificial living fashion. See, artificial living fashion of a class of vested interests and keeps thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This is modern industry, modern factories. They should not be the standard of civilization. The Prabhupada never encouraged factories, right? The Shudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. So Kalau Shudra Sambhava means people in this material world, Kali Yuga, should not have independence. They are meant for rendering sincere service to the three higher sections. They can attain all comfort simply by rendering service to the higher classes. And higher classes are supposed to take care of them, like we saw. It is especially enjoined that a Shudra should never bank money. See, why? As soon as Shudras accumulate wealth, it will be misused for sinful activities in women, wine, and gambling. Shudra should never bank money, which means that you should not have a bank account. Why today's world is in this miserable state is because everybody is Shudra and everybody has not one, multiple bank accounts. And everybody is hoarding money, assets. Everybody is rich. Everybody goes in big, big cars. All Shudras and lower than Shudras. Wine, women, and gambling indicate that the pollution in population is degraded to less than Shudra quality. Because Shudras also don't indulge in these things. This is Chandalas, Lechas, Yavanas. The higher caste should always look after the maintenance of the Shudras and they should provide them with old and used garments. Shudra should not leave his master when the master is old and invalid, and the master should keep the servant satisfied in all respects. The Shudras must first of all be satisfied by sumptuous food and clothing before must first of all be satisfied, meaning they should be given sumptuous food and clothing before any sacrifice is performed. In this age, so many functions are held by spending millions, but the poor laborer class is not sumptuously fed or given charity, clothing, etc. The laborers are thus dissatisfied, and so they make agitation. So the main purpose of ashrama dharma, varna ashrama, brahmacharya grihastha, is to awaken knowledge and detachment. So that is why charity has to be given in grihastha, so that we become detached from our material possessions. So we become detached, then we learn knowledge, and then we enter into vanaprastha where we do severe austerities. Not severe, but austerities at least. Okay, so such a beautiful description of varnashrama. For many years, I couldn't understand why these things are important, but more and more now, as I'm preaching and looking at people and how people are struggling, with either coming to bhakti or staying in bhakti. Their heart is in one place, but they are dragged in another direction because of this modern society. Where there are very few fortunate ones who can stay near the, congregation of devotees and engage in service and all that. But many devotees are just cut off from any kind of devotee association, and they just struggle for existence. So without these kind of communities, how will we make progress? And then there is no proper Shravanam. Then there is no proper Kirtanam also. Though Prabhupada has written all this in his purports, nobody wants to speak about all this because people can't accept it. So people don't talk about these at all. And people don't talk about this. People don't talk about Varnashrama. People don't talk about pushing people into Vanaprastha, which means finishing up your material duties. Come to 16 hours bhakti in Vanaprastha. None of these topics are talked about. How will we make progress? How will we make progress? On one end, we are chanting, on the other end, we are pouring water, cold water. So one side, we are we're lighting the fire, on the other side, we are pouring cold water. So it'll make things difficult. It's not that it won't work, it will work, but we will see very, very little effect. Actually, the power of Krishna consciousness, we can see in the lives of brahmacharis, right, who are dedicated and full time they're engaged in service. You can see they're so bright, they're happy, they're, always engaged. Their consciousness is so nice. Grihasthas are always struggling, and the only solution for grihasthas, and that's also another challenge because most of the preaching in ISKCON is by brahmacharis and sannyasis who don't may not completely understand how badly grihasthas are stuck. Of course, sannyasis might understand. Brahmachari is very difficult. They don't completely understand how badly grihasthas are stuck. And grihasthas are not preaching about these things. So who is going to accept? The Prabhupada is very, very clear. That is why he's an acharya. He's so nicely delineated all these things for us to accept and make our life perfect so that we can go back to Krishna. Okay, I'll stop here. Anybody has any questions, we can discuss. Hare
Krishna, bro.
Krishna.
So when you were mentioning the point about we should not be inimical towards anyone, you mentioned that we should not thrash the postman. I didn't understand. But
okay, so for example, somebody, normally what we say, we always, our fingers are pointing towards somebody, right? Saying that, oh, this person, because of this person, I'm struggling. This person spoke like this. Why can't this person understand? It could be husband telling about a wife talking about a husband, or about in-laws, or about boss at work, or whatever it is, right? And then we become inimical towards that person because we think that person is doing this to me, right? We should understand, but he's just a postman. It's our karma phala. He's just a postman delivering our karma phala. So if a postman comes with bad news, are you going to hold the postman and beat him up saying that, why did you bring me such bad news? He's just delivering the goods. That's it. So that whoever that person is, we have had karma. We have to have an exchange of karma with that person because of our past, right? Maybe we've done this to them last life, and they're doing this to us right now, right? So we should understand they're just postmen. They are just delivering our karma phala. So why are we getting upset about them, and we become inimical towards people? Not required. Just accept saying that this is my karma phala and this had to come through this person. It's coming.
yes, bro. Yeah. And another question was about the anger, Prabhu. You mentioned that anger, first of all, it should be avoided because that's a part of 9 qualities for a civilized man. But you also mentioned that it can also be utilized in bhakti. I mean, if it's an expression which is required. So my question is, it is very difficult for somebody to even evaluate that whether anger is needed or not needed, and most often of the times it actually makes the situation ugly, even though done with the right intention. I have observed, at least in my circumstances, and also I have seen others falling in that trap. So my thought process is that if like even if we think that it's a straightforward expression, or it's a straightforward thing that will come out because some things is not doing right clearly, but as a devotee, I always find it conflicting that because this is also mentioned in 64 qualities of a devotee, that devotee is straightforward. Now, if we don't show anger at times, it might conflict that, okay, it is not straightforward. But on the other hand, it is also not as quality, for a civilized man. So then how to deal with this situation? What should be
Yeah.
mentality?
Yeah. I mean, see, we should understand being straightforward doesn't require us to be angry. I mean, this is actually our misconception. Being straightforward means just telling objectively what it is, right? I mean, over years with practice, I've realized this, saying that initially because we are too attached to what we are saying and that we want it to be absolutely followed, like we are actually, we think we are in the position of Krishna. And so we say with that, we that feeling of authority, saying that, oh, I am saying it, hence follow. Right, and I'm saying it right only. I'm not saying wrong. Yes, absolutely, we'll be saying based on Shastra, right? But please understand, we are not Krishna to control people here, right? So that is why Shastra says that you should do your duty as a husband, as a father. You should do your duty. You should do your duty. What does duty mean? Not literally shouting at people, right? Giving them the right direction. Now it depends on our nature. What is our how much we are conditioned by what mode. that we will approach each of this in a particular way. For example, somebody is highly rajasic will approach it by shouting. Somebody who's highly tamasic will just stop talking and just go off, right? And they'll just not bother to engage at all. But a person who is sattvic can be straightforward, acceptable, can he can achieve the real goal. So we should understand that we are in the lower modes, and hence these qualities seem to be conflicting to us, but actually not. Straightforward and anger is not required. Anger is an extreme, form of manifestation of. Actually, anger is not required. Only anger is required only when it is like Hanuman had to destroy Lanka, and he couldn't be sattvic to destroy Lanka, right? And he had to manifest his anger, right? So when it is directly if against a devotee, against Lord, then it can be exercised. But we should also understand what our position is. Are we being prejudiced? Are we, having our own agenda and then using this as a pretext to say something to somebody? Many times we are ourselves not so pure minded, right? So others will see that, oh yeah, you're taking this opportunity and you're telling this to me, right? So there are very lot of complications. We should first of all recognize our own frailties, our own weaknesses, our own fallen state, and then based on that we should go and approach advising to others. And see, the role of a preacher especially is very, very difficult. Because in our house, actually we are preachers. We are preaching first to our family, right? And when you're preachers, you have to be very, very sensitive. You have to be very, very careful. You should speak but not speak, right? This is achintya. It's very difficult. That is why preaching is an art. And preaching doesn't always come about by straightforwardness means you should also understand where the person stands, right? You should understand the person. So one of the prerequisites for preaching is to be able to understand a person. So what do? We generally speak general things in a class, right? When we are on the Vyasasana, we speak whatever is there in Prabhupada's purports. But when an individual comes to talk to us, to asking some question or clarification, we will not directly give the same answer. We'll first try to understand the person, saying that what is that person, where is that person standing, what is that much faith they have in Krishna. So many things have to be factored. And then what needs to be told needs to be told, right? For sometimes maybe we will not tell the actual thing to that person immediately. You might give something which might be a pre-step to actually telling that person the real truth, right? And that might maybe happen only after, maybe 1 or 2 months. So straightforward doesn't mean we are, see, we should understand one thing. We don't have to, we will not talk about something which others cannot even understand or appreciate, right? We will not talk about love of Krishna. How many times have we talked about Madhurya Prema in this in this class, right? Because it's not that everybody can consume that. It's absolute truth, right? Absolute truth. But we don't go and talk about something which others cannot even understand or appreciate, right? So we should bring people to that level and then give them. So simply straightforward doesn't mean that we should give them everything. So we cannot just, I mean, that's why these dharma, right? These all these aspects of moral etiquette and behavior and all that, they're very, very very delicate. One has to understand the intricacies. Like I was asking some devotee about Vaishnava Aparadha, and I was saying, yeah, if somebody is doing something wrong, then can we tell something? Can we go and tell them saying that they're? But he said you cannot even know whether somebody is doing something wrong. How will you know? By just what that act a person does, but you have to understand why that person did that. So unless you know that person, unless you can talk to that person, unless you can understand, you cannot go and criticize or comment about anybody's action. It's very difficult. So it's a very complicated thing, we should, and anger anyway is nothing to do with straightforwardness, like I explained initially, right? Anger is nothing to do with straightforwardness. Straightforwardness is also not necessarily, straightforwardness just only means that we are not misrepresenting the truth, right? We are not saying some wrong things, but we might give the truth also based on the maturity of the individual at the right time, right place, right circumstance, etc.
I think that was my doubt. So I think straightforwardness doesn't mean that even if we feel that something is not going right, it's not necessary that we speak up at that time. If it
Yeah,
is,
like see, for
yeah,
example, I'll tell you what Maharaj does, right? Like his own is Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. He makes a note, right? Whenever he sees, I've seen him. He has a notebook. Whenever he sees some discrepancy, he makes a note, right? Why does he make a note? I mean, he has the authority to directly just call somebody and just tell them saying that this is wrong. But no, because people might not be in a position to accept, right? So then he will go and speak to the right person who can then go and inform the. So I mean, it's straightforwardness, but there's a way to approach it, right? It's you might go and tell, if you want to tell something to a person, you might go and tell first to somebody else who is more closer to that person. Somebody came to me and their I mean, like mother and children, they're all very Krishna conscious. Their grandparents are not. And so I wanted their grandparents also to become Krishna conscious. So I was telling those grandchildren, saying that you love your grandparents so much. Why don't you sit with them and do kirtan for some time? Encourage them to do Krishna consciousness. Now, if I guide directly, I want to go and tell those grandparents myself, but I know they won't accept. So it's straightforwardness, but in a way that will accomplish what is required. So it's very delicate. So which is why only when we preach, Krishna will give these intelligence to us, right? And then we will learn. And it takes some time to maturity to understand how to deal with people and situations.
yes, sure, clear now. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Anything else? Are satisfied? Okay. You can close it. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyo patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha koti vaishnava.